It's amazing how fast things can change and updates can be had, and how fast news shifts and all of this. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, good for you, for one. And for two, you're probably just waking up like most other people and just now seeing that there's anything going on in the first place. So what I'm talking about in general is that way earlier this morning, I was up at 4 a.m. because I had this story sent to me, and then I wasn't able to sleep, and I was like, hey, I got the setup. I'm just going to make the video about it and then post it. And by the time I wake up, it'll be posted and I won't have to think about it when I wake up. Yet here we are 4 hours later. I am awake and I'm making video because there are updates to this, and my previous video is completely outdated, and most of the things that I said in it are things that I don't know if I'd necessarily want to keep online anymore, because the truth of the matter is I don't know the actuality of this situation. Is that a word? Either way. So having no idea what I'm talking about, or if you're just coming into this, let's go ahead and update you on what's going on. So last night, 9 hours ago, Morrow made a post on Instagram saying, wanted to let everyone know that this version of my Eclat tire was not authorized or endorsed by me. I quietly left the brand about 2 years ago with the agreement my tire and signature parts would sell the current batch in circulation and then be discontinued. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, I get a mention that a shop has picked up my tire. At first, I didn't think much of the mention, but upon further inspection, I noticed the logo was completely different. I've never seen this logo, in parentheses, and frankly think it's hideous. Eclat never told me they were making another run of my tire, and I still haven't been paid my previous tire sale royalties, in parentheses, thousands of dollars. At this point, I could really care less WTF they do, but I do feel they deserve to be called out, as this is not the first time they've done this to a professional rider. Anytime someone creates a signature product with Eclat, they automatically assume sole ownership of the design and continue to produce said product long after the rider's departure from the brand. Let's see, this is never discussed with the rider, and I don't think many riders ask, well, what do you do with my product if we part ways? As that can come off as ungrateful from someone in the position of having a signature product. This has even gone as far as someone designing a product being kicked off the team before the product was officially released under their name, only to see the product on shelves months later. So I've come to social media to discuss what my following feels is the right thing to do in this situation. Should I rightfully be pissed something I designed and spent years dreaming of its fruition has now been stolen from me? Or do I say whatever once again in this effed up industry and just let it go? The Eclat BMX brand has decided not to reply to my DM, so we'll see if they make an official statement now. And that's all the information that I had when I made my video previously, aside from other situations in the past. And I'll be totally honest, based on this and that situation of rider being kicked off and the product still coming out without their name on it, situations like that in the past, I wasn't surprised to read this at all. I wasn't surprised to hear that something like this would happen at all, because we've all seen those situations and things where ideas that have been out previously or concepts that have been out previously have been claimed to be their own or brand new, or the situation with Julian Ortega and the grip and how he helped design the signature grip, and then he didn't ride for them anymore and they still released it, and when everything came out with that. So I wasn't surprised, and I felt comfortable enough to be like, all right, I'm going to make this video and it's going to be fine. Well, here I am being a man, especially a man of my word, holding and standing behind the fact that if I say something wrong, then I'm going to say I said something wrong. Or if it comes out that it's even possible that I'm wrong and there's new information that I need to address and make sure is out there, then I'm going to do it. So I want to apologize for my previous video, and this new one gives all of the information that is available to us now, because everything that I said previously, I don't think maybe is something that I want to have out there anymore. And the reason for that is this comment from Eclat BMX brand. So let's see if we can just go down and find it here. I'm going to scroll past all the other comments here. And let's see. Eclat BMX brand. Hey Ty, frustrating for us to read this, mainly due to you ghosting us for 2 years, not replying to any messages, even though you read them. To say you quietly left the brand is not true. We paid you a salary for 2 years, and in that time you rode S&M parts while getting paid from us. You have been paid the royalties for your parts. We don't owe you thousands. Nothing is outstanding. We offered you the opportunity to keep the signature parts. No reply though. We still have those DMs. It was 2 years of us trying to contact you. I think it's better to just leave this. We ain't gonna publicly discuss this BS any more than this. We all should be better than this. We don't know what you want in all of this. To be honest, we just wanted some dialogue or conversation before decisions were made. We never got that. Shame, because we asked you if you wanted to keep the products and get a royalty even if you didn't ride for us. We are still happy to do that now if you want, but you have to talk to us. Investing and tooling is expensive, and with no direction or communication, we had to make our own decisions. That's all from us on this. And to be totally honest, that's an amazing answer and all that anybody should need. And it just, once again, like I said in my previous video, highlights the importance of contracts. And now I want to highlight the importance of communication, because regardless of what any contract said between Ty Morrow and Eclat, the importance of having some sort of clause that says if rider has signature part and no longer rides for the company, and the company decides to keep using that mold and keep creating that part, rider will still get paid the exact same amount or whatever is agreed upon, so that in a circumstance where something like this happens, there are no questions or Instagram posts that need to be made. No one needs to get upset because it is in the contract, and you can look back to where both entities signed and say, all right, this is what's going to happen. It's legally bound between us, and unless we agree to something other than this, this is what's going to happen. And then communication is also a extremely important thing in all of this too. So we have both sides of this story now in this post. We have Ty Morrow's side and we have Eclat's side. And as we all know, the truth often has 3 sides to it. The one on one side, one on the other side, and the truth somewhere in the middle. And so after all of this, I would say, like, even with the history of things with Eclat, like, even some of those things could be called into question in terms of the validity of claims made from riders and things like that, because we don't know all of the information. And I don't think, like, while I think that if somebody genuinely and truly gets screwed over, it is something worth talking about that people should know about, I don't think it should go as far as we're going to publicly put out a contract that someone signed so that everyone gets to see what they agreed upon. Because as of right now, we don't know what was in that contract. And if anything wasn't in the, like, if anything about signature parts was not in the contract at all, then Eclat has the right to do whatever they want to do with this, and they don't have to owe anybody anything if it's not written into the contract. So with that being said, it's extremely important to have these things figured out ahead of time. And if you are a rider out there watching this, and somehow a rider who has a signature part is watching this, have a contract with the company that you work with. If you don't have one now, have them write one up, or have freaking ChatGPT write one up, because it's really good at that too. And have a contract drafted up and then reviewed by somebody who isn't you or a family member or a friend who is smart that you trust, and then have both people sign that so that you can prevent a thing like this. Do it with whatever money they're paying you, whatever signature parts that you have, anything that could possibly come up, trip money, travel budget, anything that is part of your deal, write it into the contract and then think of stuff for the future and how things should be handled, because that will prevent things like this from happening. And if every single company that has a sponsored rider has some sort of contract, and I'm even guilty of this in terms of I don't have contracts with every company that I work with. So what I'm getting at is, if everyone had a contract between them and the company, then things like this, and it was a good contract and there was enough depth to it and detail, things like this couldn't even happen without it being a legitimately like easy situation to point out who is wrong and who is at fault and who is in breach of contract. And if that happens, then we wouldn't have to worry about things like this. But ultimately, what it comes down to here, when it comes to both of these statements and whatever's going on, I think it's something that doesn't need to be out there. This is a situation where in my last video, I talked about how people should be able to talk about things, and people should talk about stuff that is like this that needs to go out there. But at this point, there's information out there that's like, damn, man, like, does this even need to be out there? Because this is not a clear-cut case of someone doing something completely wrong, because it sounds like they tried to talk to Ty about the tire and there was no communication there. So it's like, well, it is an understandable thing. And in my previous video, there were several people who brought up the point that like a tire mold can cost thousands, and it's not that it can cost, it does cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And when you know that, and you pair that with the fact that you know that there was a lack of or you've been told that there was a lack of communication for this whole entire situation, then it's like, well, could you really fault a company for not wanting to just stop using a mold that costs them thousands of dollars, that at this point is definitely paid off and they own it, or however that process exactly works? But could you blame them for not wanting to use this tooling that they already have to make something that people enjoy? And then somebody brought up the fact that like, it really sucks whenever things just go away. Imagine if the Odyssey Aiken tire just disappeared. There's a lot of people who really love that tire, and if it just went away years and years ago when Mike Aiken no longer was like really affiliated with the brand and riding for them professionally, that would have been a bummer to a lot of people. And everyone has a part that was a signature part that they could think of that sucks that it isn't around anymore. The fact that the Fly Rubin tires are still around is awesome. And the fact that people are still associated with them is awesome, because we know that, we don't know, but we would hope that with the Aiken tire or the Rubin tire, that these legends are being helped out and paid, even though they're not riding at that professional level that's in front of everybody's face, making the videos that everyone loved. So with all of that being said, I don't know if I have a stance right now. I've shifted my full position to just being in the middle and feeling like I don't know what to think. And without knowing exact details, I don't think I can have a stance on this one. So I once again want to apologize for my previous video, and I want to say that I hope that this situation gets cleared up, and I hope that Ty and Eclat are able to talk to each other and get it figured out. And I hope that this can be a teachable moment for professional riders and people who are coming up in the future, where you see the importance of that contract and communication, and set yourself up to not have to have a situation like this happen. And instead of just being like, oh, F Eclat, or oh, F Ty because he's talking bad about Eclat and all of this, we look at it for what the situation is and learn from it to try and prevent it in the future. And that's ultimately part of why I made this video here instead of just privating my other one and not having anything about it at all, is because I felt a responsibility to, one, apologize for the previous video and get the current accurate state of the situation out there, and two, just try to look at it for what we can learn from it and hopefully help move things forward in that, because there's a lot of people out there who are only going to see Ty's post and not going to see Eclat's comment on it. And the bad call out posts, I don't want to say bad, the call out posts, I don't want to say bad because we don't know fully the 100% truth to this, but the call out posts or the original article that has false information that we see in the news or whatever it might be, those original posts and articles and videos and things usually get way more attention than any follow-up does. And so there's people out there who are only going to see Ty's post that are going to think badly and don't know that there's an update to this that is like, hey, maybe you want to consider this before you just write something off. And with that being said, I hope that we can just move forward with the importance of contracts and communication and clarity in mind, and that when something like this comes up in the future, we can be confident that it is fully, like, no question, it's not questionable at all, and that the thoroughness of a contract would make it so that anything that we might see is an absolutely egregious breach of that contract, because you know for a fact that there's probably way more situations where a rider did something that hurts a company in those situations more than companies have screwed over riders. But we know that both have happened plenty in BMX's history, and just a handshake or a verbal agreement isn't enough. So with that being said, that's all I have here. I don't have a stance anymore. I am firmly just here, and if there's any more updates to it, I'm not making another video. I'll talk about it in the news. This is all I have to say about it. Contracts, communication, and clarity are very important, and this highlights exactly why. With the contract that's clear and communication, there doesn't have to be situations where the public doesn't know what is true, because it can be very clearly pointed at. This is what it was, and this is what should have happened, is happened. Nobody's in breach of contract, whatever. I'm still tired because I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to go back to sleep again. And thanks for tuning in. Sound off in the comments. I think we have a much more reasonable approach at this point, having both sides, and an understandable look at this from the cost of molds to people enjoying parts to companies willing to pay riders continuously moving forward, even though they don't ride for them, with signature parts that they continue making. So yeah, if there's anything more, look for it in the news. I'm not making another video.